Okay, hi guys. This is for you. It's about the beginning of our Introduction to Research program. Now, why are we doing this? Why are we doing it in the beginning of M1 when you're thinking research project? Well, that's M2, isn't it? Well, I think we need to think about what research is, first of all. Research is going into the unknown. It's like a project, projectio in Latin, to throw forward. So you're throwing yourself forward into what? Well, into the unknown. You've come here to learn things you don't know, to discover them, into the future in a year's time, the future in 10 years' time. So that's essentially what research is. Why do we do it? Why do we do research? Well, the answer is simply to change things, to find out, and in finding out, when we understand, when we really know, when we've proven something to be the case, then perhaps we can apply it in a particular situation at work or our personal, professional lives, and we can make things better. At the university I used to work for, called Bournemouth University in England, and you can go online and check me out on this, has a crest, an emblazon. And it states underneath it in Latin, discere mutare est. To learn is to change. Not just you changing. When you leave Mikayi, you will be aware that you have changed, because you'll be able to do things that you've never been able to do before. You'll feel more capable than you ever have done before. You won't necessarily say, that's because I learnt that in the third lesson of semester 2 with Tony or Sophie or Suzanne or Ellen or whoever. You will just be better, feel better, and be more capable. So the point about doing research is to change. So why are we doing it at the beginning of M1? Because we want you to learn to change, to learn to launch out into a new world of learning, a new world of working, and be more capable as a result. At the moment, when we give you a question, we, your teachers, we're actually asking you very, very specific things. We're saying in the question, the way we frame it, exactly what it is that we want and often what we don't want. Some of you look at us and think, oh God, that's a long question, it's complicated. Actually, the short questions are the most complicated ones, because quite often there isn't enough in the question to give you guidance as to what is actually required. So when we give you questions, usually there are a number of question words that you can identify. Normally there are a number of specific subject words that we want you to apply those questions to. And often we give you a context. In the role of a development manager, do this. Okay. But when you get to M2, when you go out into semester 2, and I hope it is going out, I'm recording this during the COVID confinement number 2, I hope you get to go out into industry, but then it will be up to you to choose not just an area of study, I'll do something on that, but to choose the question, to choose the problem that you want to attack, the question that you want to resolve and answer. So it will be up to you to do that and to identify how you're going to go about doing it. So there's a sense in which the work you're doing now in M1 is all about, when we set you a question, going out and discovering, doing research in that new area. And when you are in M2 doing your work, you'll be determining what it is that you believe you want to go and look at. And what's the result of that? Well, in the first case, when you are studying and we're setting the questions, you're answering our questions, and we know that's going to be enlightening. That's why we've set those questions. But when you're going out to do this in M2, the end product hopefully is going to be conclusions that you draw from your evidence and recommendations that you make to your company to be able to improve in some particular way, maybe to make things, and here we're back to the ease again, guys, more efficient, more effective, more economical. Okay, the three main ones. And this is why we do research. What I'm just about to sell you is a concept of a logic that runs behind all research. I don't care whether you're doing research in France or in the UK or the States. This logic I'm about to sell you is one that applies whatever you are doing, whatever subject, whether you're talking about marine biology or whether you're talking about logistics management. Doesn't matter. There's a logic behind the process of research. I've even discussed this with Ellen concerning literature-based research. And although they tend to use slightly different terms, they talk about exactly the same process. So I'm trying to sell you this idea of what I call a driven process. What do I mean by driven? The process from step 1 drives step 2, which drives step 3, which drives step 4. The problem with research for you is that it's so easy to get lost in it. It's a very big place. It's like space. It's a big place. It's easy to get lost in your own research, to go off here when you should be going straight ahead, to lose sight of things. So I'm going to sell you what I call a driven process, which you will also find a figure on my website and in my first lecture materials with plenty of links pointing at it. Research as a driven process. So here we go. What's the first thing? The first thing in the first phase of doing this is that your interests should drive the title. What do I mean by that? Well, at the moment we are giving you the questions, we're not giving you much choice. But when it comes to you doing your rapport de stage, the choice is yours. Now, I would say, and I think you will agree, that you are almost certainly going to do better, perform better, be more interested, spend more time, be prepared to go the extra mile if it's something you like, if it's something you're really interested in. So your interests should drive the subject that you're going to look at and the title that you're going to choose. Don't wait for your company to come up to you and say, we've thought of a great title of something that you could look at for your rapport de stage, because it's quite possible that you just won't like it at all. Better you think, you look, you try and see places where, number 1, on your side, you're really interested, and number 2, on the company's side, they could really benefit from you looking at this thing, and then sell the idea to your boss at the company and to people like me, your tutor at university. So let's imagine you've got a title. And by the way, in terms of expressing your title, a piece of advice I will come back to in a future video. Articulate your title as a question, which you're going to solve, a problem that you're going to solve, there's an end point in both of those, or a hypothesis that you're going to test and draw conclusions from, again an end point. If you just have a general title which seems to be descriptive, the state of search engine optimization in my company, that goes like that. There's no end point. It just goes into different layers of detail. So please, when you're thinking of your title, a question to solve, a question to answer, a problem to solve, or a hypothesis to test. So once you've got your title, then what you need is a set of aims and objectives. You can't just look at the whole of your title. You need to break it down into various bits. And I would say between something like 3 and 7 aims and objectives. If I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I will have answered everything that's in my title. If you only have 2 aims and objectives, they're just too enormous to get your teeth into. If you have 13, 14, 15, it's a huge, great long list you're never going to get through, and the reader is never going to keep up with you. So you need some aims and objectives that reflect 100% of your title, not 120%. There's no point in doing the 20%. Not 80%, because you've missed 20%, but 100%. So I'll talk to you about your aims and objectives later and how to make them good, but the point is your title drives your aims and objectives. What do your aims and objectives then drive? They drive your secondary research. What is secondary research? It's research that you, primary, it's research that you didn't do. Someone else has already done. No point in reinventing the wheel. If it's out there, if someone's done it, you should go and find it and see what we have already learned from it. There is no point in reinventing the wheel and doing that research again when it's already been done by academics or professionals. So what do, you take each one of your aims and objectives, your 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 aims and objectives, and you ask yourself the question about each one, what do we already know about that? So when you've done that, then you have to ask yourself the question for each one of these aims and objectives, what is it we still don't know? What am I missing? In other words, what you've just come up with is what I call a research gap. It's a target for the primary research, the research you need to go and do. So you then have a hit list of things you need to go and find out. Well, before you rush off, you need to ask yourself the question, who's got that information? In what form is that information? Where is it? What is the best way of going about getting this information? Should I be interviewing people? Should I be sending a questionnaire? Should I be observing people? How do I get this information? What is the best way that's going to produce the most complete and the most accurate results? That, my friends, is called a methodology. And trust me, most students miss it out. They say, I'm now going to do some research. And you're thinking, well, why and how? And all that happens is the student presents the data. And you think, how do I know this is right? Methodology then is important. Once you've got your methodology, clearly you then do what you need to do with it. You design your survey, you semi-structured interview, whatever it is, and you go out and launch it. You've launched it and you've got your data in a bag. And at some point you have to think about, well, what am I going to do with it? Well, you need to present it and explain it. Once you've presented and explained it, you perhaps need to really go into it and analyze it and say, well, okay, 64% people said yes, but then you need to evaluate it. But should we have expected 99 people to say yes, or just 3 people to say yes? How good is our 63, 64%? How do we know? That's analysis and evaluation. Once you've got your analysis and your evaluation, you can begin to draw conclusions. Conclusion might be, if you set out to look at the effectiveness of the company's new marketing campaign, on a number of counts and for a number of reasons, that was not as good as it could and should have been. That's a conclusion. And what does that lead to? Well, this is where we see how good you are. This is where we see your analysis, we see your creativity, we see your understanding of the company, we see your master's worthiness. Because you need to go on and make recommendations. Do you remember what I said? Discere mutare est. To learn is to change. You don't just say, this is what I've learned. You make recommendations as to what changes could be made to improve things for the company and how they can do that. A lot of people just bracket conclusions and recommendations together. Don't do it. They are not two synonyms. Okay? These are two different things. And forgive me, lady, for a moment, but If you like, after 9 months of doing research, or 5 or 6 in your case, you need to give birth to the baby. And the baby is the recommendations that you make that are going to change your company and its systems, its processes, its degree of effectiveness, economy, efficiency, etc. That's why we do it. So don't quit out on the baby. You need to deliver it after all that effort. So this essentially is the purpose of it. To learn is to change. You need to be able to go through each one of those steps and let each one of those steps guide you to the next one, so you don't get lost. You always have this focus. You can always find the end point, which is something is going to be known and therefore be changed for the better. That's what you're responsible for. Okay, so there you go. That's what the driven process is. Do have a look at that figure. Do remind yourself of it. And of course, the assignment that I'm going to give you takes you through the first part of that, to make sure that when you submit an idea to your prof referent at the university, that you have a good idea which is likely to be successfully developed, and you know, and you can show your company and the people who are evaluating you where you're going with it. Okay, thank you very much, guys. I'll now record this and go on to the next part of this, which is really going to be about what makes a good title. That's where we're going next. Okay, bye for now.